We met Eddie Trapp, outdoorsman on the river, of course. He was holding a farewell party for his river cabin because he's recently sold it. We took along the Channel 18 cameras to document some of Eddie's 40 years on the river.
And we're sitting on the bank of a river. Eddie, what river is this? What part of a river is this?
South Sulphur River. It's about 4 miles below the dam spillway at Cooper Lake.
Okay. This water is up.
It's up very high. We have a little bridge that we can cross down here when it's normal stage, but it's a lot higher, of course, now. We got 8 inches of rain a week or so ago, and they store it in our lake up the Cooper Lake until they can hold it as long as they can. They try to help the people downriver so that they don't get flooded out. They fuss sometimes because we turn it loose too soon. I say we, the Corps of Engineers.
I know you love to be out here. This is your cabin?
Yes.
This is not where you live permanently, but where you love to spend time at.
Yes. I have spent over 100 nights in that little cabin right there. It was built in 1989. There was not even a road down here. We pulled a little small trailer behind four-wheelers and three-wheelers then, didn't have four-wheelers. It pulled all the equipment on a little narrow trailer behind the four-wheeler and just worked in and out through the woods till we got down here. And we've really enjoyed this. We enjoy coming down here. I have written on the wall in there of the nights, the 100 and something nights that I have spent. We were right here one night, spending the night. Jane and I were sleeping, and some of our friends, the Pickerings that live at Charleston, he used to be the superintendent at Guthrie, Texas. But anyway, he and his wife and little boy and little girl were in a tent right over there. Now, hogs had been coming right across the river over there to eating, and we started pouring corn. We saw a lot of tracks there, so we started putting corn there. And it'd been there 2 or 3 days, and one night we spent the night down here, and the Pickerings were over in their tent. And I heard, it's real quiet down here, and I could hear those hogs across the river over there chomping that corn. It was making loud popping noise. And so I told Jane, I said, hold my light. I had a big Thompson contender pistol about that long, and I got out on the porch and I leaned back against the wall and dug my knees up, and I going to take aim, and Jane was holding my light, and I said, okay, turn the light on. When she turned that light on, that hog ran off. And Jane said, I've got to go around the corner of the house just for a minute. And about the time she got around there, those hogs started chomping again. And hurry. And she came around there, and she shined the light again, and it stood there just long enough that time that I could get a shot. And it's a very loud pistol. And the Pickerings were over here asleep and did not know what was going on. And that loud pistol, they almost tore through the walls of that tent. And so the hog, I thought run off, but I walked over there and it was there. And we were prepared to kill a hog. We had an ice chest full of ice down here. And we skinned it and gutted it right down there in the creek. Water was running a little bit. And that was some experience for them though, that God woke up in a dead sleep and nearly run through the tent.
Of all the things that you do, and I probably can't even name them all, fishing, your trot lines, your just being in the boat, your floats that you do, hunting hogs, other kinds of hunting, trapping, all the things that you've done, what is your favorite thing to do?
My favorite thing is hog hunting. It is amazing that everybody's got hogs, and a lot of people want you to catch them. I had a little bad spell with my health a year or two ago, and I got rid of all my dogs. And now I feel like I'm 18 again, and so I'm going to probably get some. Don't let my wife hear me say it, but I'm probably going. I'm feeling good enough that I'm probably ready to get back in the hog business. I have people come from Iowa, and Minnesota, and the people from Iowa came. They have come 3 or 4 years in a row, and they watch me as the bulldogs catch the hog. They watch me as I go in and throw the hog, and then they come in and stick it with a knife. Well, this year they came down here and they said, we want the full meal deal. We are ready to take it on ourselves.
Really?
And said, when the dog catch a hog, you just stand back and don't do nothing. And sure enough, those guys, it was in a ditch and water, and those 2 guys from Iowa went down and threw that hog and stuck it with a knife themselves, and they were ecstatic. Oh, they were enjoying it.
How much would one of those weigh?
This one weighed a little over 200 pounds. Lee Pogue on his place over there west of the Silver Spring Lake, I guess. He has a lot of land in there, or leases or whatever. But we were over there by his house, and he said that was the biggest sow he had ever seen. And he's been in the woods a lot.
So, you're ready to organize another hog hunt. Do people come and spend 2 nights, or how long of a
Anywhere from
jaunt is it?
1 to 5 nights. They really enjoy hog hunting, and I enjoy carrying them and take them. I've had some real good dogs over the years.
How do you begin to train a hog dog?
Usually when they're a big pup, you take them to somebody's hog pen. A lot of people will catch hogs and keep them and fatten them up and eat them, or they put them on high fence place and let people go in and shoot them in the high fence, which I don't like that. It's an open range, so to speak, when we find a hog, and well, they really enjoy that and have people come from all over.
Well, and so do some dogs have better aptitude for learning about catching than other dogs? You kind of know if it's going to be a good one to train up.
You can tell pretty quick after you take it to a bay pen, it's called. Normally you let a dog inside and just let him bark at the hog. That's called a bay pen. So with pups, you'd take them to the bay pen, but not put them in there. Just let them bark through the fence. And then you can usually tell which pup is going to make a good dog. I had a dog named Curly that was that way. She had 5 or 6 litter mates, and she would stay with it, and she would really get excited about them.
I've read some of your volumes of books. I don't have them all. Do you have 12 so far?
12 books, and what it is, I write one a week. One story a week goes in there, and then I use those stories in the books that I'm selling.
Well, they're spiral bound. They're very nice. On the River with E.T. volume whatever. Is that right?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. They cost me $16 to have them printed, and I charge $15 for them. I would rather lose $1 than to have somebody have an experience of going out in the woods.
What I like about your writing is that through the journaling that you do and the notes that you keep of daily, pretty much daily, what you've seen or heard, who you've talked to, some small or large experience you've had, and others that you meet along the way, then you can read about being out on this river. Some of them are harrowing experiences you write about. Others are just gentle floats down and what you saw along the way. I want you to tell us a story of yours.
Oh, let's see. Floating down the rivers. In 1984, the World's Fair was in New Orleans. My brother and I made a deal that we would launch at Alexandria, Louisiana. I have floated the Red River all the way from Denison down to Alexandria. 2 or 3 different trips. I'd go so far and then come home and get ready for the next year. But anyway, we went to Alexandria, Louisiana, and launched our boat, and we headed for New Orleans to the World's Fair. Our wives were to meet us there on Wednesday that we arrived, and we had the world record low, or the state record low, for high winds and low temperature, and we were spending the night on the bank up down there by a lock where they send you through to raise the river up and down. But anyway, we got on that river the next morning. We were spending the night at the lock, and the next morning they let us out on the Mississippi River, and it was white capping. And those barges would come by, they're 100, 200 yards long, and would have 15 or 20 pushing containers that they pushed upriver. And those waves from that and the white cap, my brother got up on the nose of the boat so it wouldn't flop up so much. And we got to Baton Rouge, 60 miles from New Orleans, and our motor quit. So we just decided to take out there. We got our stuff out of the boat and tied the boat up, and I went up downtown and caught a bus and went back up to Alexandria, and they had some bad cuss fights on that bus. There was people that were harassing each other and got some pretty strong language there.
Seem like you have colorful experiences everywhere you go, or you run into them.
I'm just lucky, I guess.
Well, what size of boat were you in on that trip?
It was a 14-foot V-bottom, and which is too small. But who knew that the norther was going to blow in?
Well, that's not the only time I'm sure you've been on water thinking it's going to be a certain way and things change on you.
Yeah. When we got to New Orleans, it was an eclipse going on, and we had been on the water for 3 days, and our clothes were dirty, and we looked kind of raggedy, and we had to walk up to town while we were waiting on our wives. We had a few hours, and so we walked downtown. Just as we were walking downtown, here come all these fancy dressed office people coming out of their offices, and they had these little things they looked through, and they had special sunglasses, and there we were right in amongst them. They were all around us, and us had on old muddy, dirty blue jeans and shirts, and I walked up to a guy and I said, "What is this?" And he said, "Well, this is a little piece of paper." I said, "Oh, no, I was talking about what's happening to the sun." You know, I just playing dumb. And he said, "It's called an eclipse." You know, and by that time it was over, and I hollered out real loud. I said, "All right, it's over. Let's go back to work."
Well, what do you see along this river? Is there people that live along this river? What kind of houses and places do they have?
If you go on down, there's not any houses that I know of in this area, but as you go down closer to Bloomberg and towards the mouth of the Sulphur where it hits Red River, there are some very high banks with beautiful houses on it, and they have step ladders coming down to the water where their boat is tied, and it's really some pretty houses along in there around Bloomberg and some of those other places.
Seems like you encounter game wardens out on the river too.
I had 3 boys, my nephew and 2 of his friends. 4 of us launched at Doddridge, Arkansas. And problem of it is I didn't want to leave my pickup. We were launching there, but I didn't want to leave my pickup right on that parking lot unattended. So I got them to stay with the boat. 3 of them stayed with the boat. And I walked back up to the first man's house. And I asked him would he let me park my pickup in his yard for $5 and carry me back down there to the boat ramp. When I got to the boat ramp where those 3 boys were, there was 4 game wardens. And they wanted to see my boat registration. And I said, I don't ever carry it with me. I've got it at home. I'm used to just staying around lakes around Cooper, and I just don't normally carry it with me. And he said, well, we could give you a ticket, confiscate the boat, and haul y'all to jail and all that. So, but he was good-natured, and he let us go. And we fished, stopped and fished along the way, and the little Pickering boy caught a flathead or alp, we call them. It was about that long, and we had it for lunch, floating along the river.
You often cook on a sandbar or in the boat or wherever you need to.
We've made a lot of trips from put in here somewhere close and go down to Highway 37. I think it's Hagensport down that way. And we watch the beavers and see all kinds of wildlife and birds flying across. And we hear the largest woodpecker of all. It's called a pileated woodpecker, and it sounds like a hen cackling. And then it drums real hard on the trees and makes the ants come out, and it eats the ants. And we were going down that river like I'm talking about, floating along, and have a grill, charcoal grill in there, and be grilling pork chops and floating along. That is pretty nice.
Pretty good living, huh?
Yeah. I retired from teaching. I had 30 years in when I was 50 years old. I got an early start in school because my mother was still going to college and had to stay with my grandma. So my grandma kept me, and to keep from driving her crazy, they paid so much to get me to go to school in Delmar, where I went the first 3 years. And
where is Delmar?
Delmar is between Paris and Cooper. It's on Highway 24. Do you know where the Daisy Dairy is? That big dairy, you can see it from the road on the right-hand side.
I suppose I do.
It's just before you get to there a little bit. It's an old school, and it's grown up with trees and vines all around it. That's Delmar.
Well, so how did you get early influence of being out on the river? Was it through your parents?
The outdoors came from my grandpa Trapp. He would take me and my cousin every year to deer hunt up around Clarksville. Those Paperland, International Paper Company. We could hunt free up there on all those roads, and he would take me up there. And the first morning I ever went, he put me up a pine tree with a 30-30. I probably had never shot one before, but he put me up a tree, and it started getting daylight. It's still dark, and it started getting daylight, and I could see an old cabin house over there, and this man came out and started chopping wood. And back then there was quails here, and the quails were hollering, and the sun was coming up, and that old man was chopping wood, and it just memories like that just don't fade away. I wasn't probably about 8 or 9 years old then.
Did you get the deer or get one that day?
No, there wasn't one come by that day, but there's a lot of happiness in not just killing something all the time.
I appreciate the things you say about just nature and the interest that you take in that, and the weather and just the skies and the atmosphere. You seem to almost be a scientist of it in your way.
Well, at 30 years I taught junior high 7th grade science, which is like a little junior biology class. And I would catch snakes and take them to school. And we were down with some real back roads on some of those kids, and every time that I'd see a turtle or something crawling across the road, I would stop and get out and get it. Wasn't no traffic or nothing. It was way back in the woods, and I'd take it to school. And next day we would study that, identify it, and tell all about it. And it got to where that the kids liked that so much that I would see a turtle and I would stop, and they took turns. They would take turns getting off and getting the turtle or frog or whatever it was. couldn't get by with that kind of stuff these days, I don't think.
Well, you also write an article for Cooper Review,
Yes.
and I don't know if you write other things or for other publications.
No, I would welcome anybody to publish it. It's not a big deal with me.
But you've done it a long time, and you're pretty famous.
I don't know about that.
It's called On the River?
Yeah, that every week sign says On the River with ET, and then I'll start my story for the week. Depending on what happens, it's quite a variety of things I put in there.
I don't know the people from over here in this county. Of course, I'm not even from Hopkins County, but got here as quick as I could, I say. But the names, all the family names that you mentioned, people that you've hunted, fished with, are still living in those stories that are in those compiled
Yeah.
versions that you write.
Yeah, I try to write down everybody's name and know where they're from and enjoy being around people. I'm a people person, I guess.
Well, I do know also that many times you've been out in the boat by yourself. Wherever it is you end up may not be where your vehicle is.
Right.
So how do you get back to it?
Well, there's the best way I ever found is to go to the nearest highway, which you usually stop at a highway, and I take a boat paddle with me and I go up on the road. And people that live there in the area where the river is it's frequently that they run across somebody that needing a ride back to their pickup. And so I go up on the road with the boat paddle, and I'm walking along with a boat paddle, and invariably somebody will stop. I've always been lucky getting rides. Somebody will stop and pick me up. In fact, I was down close outside of Texarkana one day, and I'd left my pickup at the Texarkana launch place there. And I got down to as far as I was going, and I stopped, and I got up on the road with my boat paddle, and the first guy going by stopped in his pickup, and we got to talking, and he went 30 miles out of his way to take me back to my pickup and wouldn't take any pay. He just enjoyed doing that kind of stuff, I guess.
Does it make you still believe in the good of people?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's lots of good people around. A few bad ones, but...
Well, I want to ask you one more story. Tell me the closest you ever came to losing your life in connection with being on the river, in the woods. The scariest, personally scariest experience, if you can tell us.
Well, let's see. It wasn't me, but it was the guy that I helped rescue. I'll just tell you it was 4 boys in high school, and back then people hunted coons a lot at night. They'd take a spotlight and go ride the rivers even and go with a spotlight. And so these 4 boys' boat turned over at dark. They only had about 1 flashlight, and one of them walked all the way to Highway 19 bridge and got his pickup and drove to my house at 3 o'clock in the morning and banged on the door, and I jumped up, and he told me they had turned over, and one of the boys, 2 of them, got to walk out along Vaden Creek over there, and one was locked down there on a creek that came in from the Delta County side and the Sulphur River. He couldn't go anymore. He lost his rubber boots when the boat turned over, and he was over there walking in those thorns, and we went down there, and the guy with me showed me, said right here's the last time I left him. He was walking up the river with him side by side, and he came to that little creek it comes in on, and the one that's real cold and barefooted, he had to stay right there until that boy walked out and came to my house and got me, and we got a boat and we launched it, and the water had already frozen from where they had launched it an hour or 2 earlier. It was real cold. I carried a blanket I carried a bunch of diesel, and I carried a thing to make a clothesline with. I carried sleeping bags, and just all that sudden going through there. I've been in on the fire department and EMS and that, and you sort of plan ahead that way real quick. And we got in the boat. The guy that walked to my house, we went down and launched the boat, and like I said, it done froze back over from when they had. And we floated down, and the guy said, "This is pretty close where he was." And I hollered out, and it sounded like a little baby calf. It was, we just barely hear him. He was out there, and we went to him and carried all of his oil instead of diesel. I made a big fire for him, and we took our life jackets and we set him up on that and we wrapped blankets around him. He looked like a big Indian chief sitting up there. And we built a fire and warmed his clothes, and his feet, he said, were he couldn't feel his feet. And so I got in a sleeping bag with him and put his feet up against my belly. That's an experience. And we got him in the boat, and I had called to get a substitute teacher, and I had called my stepdad to come down there where we were going to come out, right down here, Bluff Bank it's called, and bring some diesel and build a big fire, and we'd be there at 10 o'clock in the morning. And we did, and he had that big fire built, and I helped the boy up the bank, and we got him up to town where the ambulance was. He met us, and he was lucky not to lose any toes. He made it okay. He was a big, tough boy. If I told you his name, you would know him. Popular in, not popular, but well known in Hopkins County.
Well, here at your camp, at your cabin, how many years have you spent out here, coming to it for spend the night or
Well,
fish?
we built this in 1989.
Okay.
And we've been coming down here a lot since then. But it's kind of going to be sad. In fact, the name of this right here is, you remember Gene Watson's farewell party? This is our farewell party for these cabins and some that where we've been coming to since we were kids. We would roam up and down this river before we ever bought this place. But one of the worst, I thought of it after I got started on the other one, one of the worst things that I ever had goes back to the floating rivers at night. People shine the trees as they go along the river, and if they see a coon, they'll stop and shoot it out. And coon skins at one time were bringing $28 at Parish hide and fur. And so we were going to get some of that easy money. And we were shining the banks and the trees and the banks. And we came around a sharp corner, and a tree had fallen across the water, and it was just about that high. And I tried to lay down and go under it, but the motor was sticking up higher than I was. And the motor caught, and when something stops in swift water, it goes under like that. The front side, upwater side goes under. Water starts coming over the front. A boy with me was named Dean Houchins. He lives up here at Charleston right now. We were hunting together. And the limb was sloping a little bit, and so I went completely under. I had my headlight on, and he stepped out on the limb and only got the trunk of it that was leaning down. He stepped out on it, and he was waiting, looked down in that water, and he saw me completely underwater, and he could see my spotlight shining. And I got out of the water, and he got out of the water, and I was soaking wet, everything. And I was walking kind of like a robot, and my chest was just contracted so much that I couldn't hardly breathe. And luckily, I never did smoke, but Dean always smoked. And he got out on that limb, he just got waist deep, and I sure was proud that he had a big lighter, or a lighter of some kind in his pocket. And I pulled all my clothes off, and he built a fire, and I sat there naked and with him working on the fire, I sat down on my shirt or something, and it took an hour or two to dry out. So here we go, we're trying to walk back up 19, and Dean Houchins says, we can walk all the way to the bridge. I said, no. I said, don't forget about Vaden Creek, because as high as this river is, water's going to be backed up in Vaden Creek. He didn't believe me. So here we go walking up there, and we come to Vaden Creek. And we can look out west out across the pasture, and there's Bruce McNeil's dairy. And we were wishing we could be over in that warm dairy barn. But we had to walk all the way to the Tyra Highway, or whatever it is, Vaden Creek. You can see the signs up close to where the Cooper Lake is. About going back on 19, you can see Vaden Creek. It has a sign up for it. And that's where we had to walk up beside Vaden Creek to get up to a guy's house that Dean knew. And he carried us home. Dean stayed with his daughter at 3 o'clock in the morning. My wife said when I walked in the door, she could smell smoke. Man, that was a close call out there.
Well, you've got your wife, Jean. Between you, you've got 4 kids.
Right?
Have you had any good dogs along the way?
Oh, don't get me started. I bought my dogs off a guy that lives over close to Cumbie, named James Yonker. And James had a real good dog that won contest down there. And I bought some of that big famous dog's pups. And I bought the first one out of that litter. And his boy, James Yonker's boy, had already named that dog Buzz Lightyear. That's when that was all real popular. And so Buzz, I named him Buzz for Buzz Lightyear. I went home and he did so well that I came over to buy some more of the dogs. And I wound up getting 3 of those dogs. And he named all the others after country music stars. There was a Hank, and there was it's just all the country music, Shania, and all that kind of stuff. And they were scattered all over the several states here. They were really good dogs. And Buzz was one of my best dogs. And example, we were over on Highway 71 over there and back down in the river bottoms, and we jumped a big hog, and they took off and ran it a long way, and finally it got away. And when Buzz came back, he was limping. He was carrying one leg, and I looked and I saw that his Achilles tendon on the bottom, right there above your heel, had been cut. And that's the way that they used to do slaves, runaway slaves. Years ago, they'd cut that, and they couldn't run away again very fast. And that's the way Buzz was. We were on the way back to the pickup and walking down this little trail, and Buzz was in the lead, even with his bad leg, and he started barking. He hit a trail. The hog had just crossed the trail, and here he was, 3-legged, with his back foot just flopping. When your Achilles tendon is cut, your foot flops like that. And there he went out through the woods with his foot flopping and made the big hog, and the bulldogs went in and caught it. And we had some people here from Pennsylvania, or I forget where they're from. But they got to kill that hog, and I was so proud of Buzz that, as crippled like he was, that he went and found that hog and helped catch it. And then I got one named Garth Brooks out of that same litter. And he was a great dog. And Curly was his daughter, and like I was telling you a while ago, she was the one that barked at the fence the most. And I've had lots of good dogs, but they just got old, and I was getting in bad health, and so got rid of them. But don't tell Jane, but I may get back into it. I have friends that help me with hunts. I don't have to have many dogs because my friends have the dogs, and I get the hunts, and I pay them so much to bring their dogs, and we go and have a big time.
Well, I know your best partner through all these years of experiences has been Gene.
Oh yeah.
And you're going to have many more experiences too.
Right.
Sometimes things change, and you're on the brink of a change right now, but there's more to come, and I'm going to let you get back to your guests and friends here by the river for your farewell party today. But thank you for inviting KSST and Channel 18 along.
Maybe the owners will allow me to come back every once in a while. They seem like nice guys.
This is Miss Murphy.
Okay then.
The door has been, well, it gave up its life at one point, and they kind of
Yeah. Why does it say 16?
this is when they redid it, October the 5th, 2016, when they kind of shored it up a little bit.
Oh, I
But
see.
you can see, because you got to sign Miss Murphy. Oh, you can't go in there.
Well, I'll go out behind it.
So,
I got to say, that mosquito attractant you sprayed on me works.
I get all these names here.
Oh, is it signed?
room on this side of
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, if we could get to the broom, we might could. There's a big old spider right on the seat of the toilet.
Oh, that's a granddaddy long
And
legs.
I'm not very scared of stuff, believe
He's
me.
okay. He will not hurt you. But it does say watch for red wasps.
Okay. That was going to be my next question.
I will tell y'all about that red towel hanging up. And y'all saw that red towel? Right even with it on the edge of the road, there's some stuff that looks like Johnson grass, but the head is a lot bigger, and it's barnyard grass, and the birds love it. And there's a bunch all up down this road. Stop, right there, stop just a second and look at that red towel.
That's why I wear these little shoes.